Thanks for saying that, babe. I'm so glad. And actually, I feel like this is a perfect opportunity to like talk about other examples where this showed up for me in like more detail. Okay, this is a perfect one. So, when it comes to health and fitness, right? I got to a place where I was really happy with my, not only my physique, like physically, like I work out, like I've always worked out, but I haven't always been happy with my body image, and I have not always had healthy eating patterns. However, I did like so much inner work on myself to overcome like these negative habits that I had with food. Also, diabetes runs in my family, so I did so much research on like how to overcome like sugar cravings and like balance my blood sugars. I went on a whole journey, and I combined like mindfulness and I overcame like binge eating and like restrictive eating, and just like I did so much work on myself to get to a healthy place with food and diet when I was living on my own. So how this showed up for me, again, after like basically being at, on a scale from 1 to 10, my happiness with my physique, with my body image, and with my nutrition was at a 10. I went from there to, I had to move back home, and during this time I gained 10 pounds. I understand like weight is just a number, this and that, but for me that was like going so backwards because I worked so hard to get to where I was. Not only that, but I just like all of the bad habits that I used to have with food, all of the foods that I purposefully eliminated from my diet because I know they trigger like unhealthy habits for me personally, were back into my diet because I moved back home and they were around me. And I was around like my family, not to throw shade, like I love my family, but they don't have the best eating habits. Like I had to train myself out of the habits that they have, because part of why, like it's just it's like a habit in my family to eat. Like it's like sometimes bad habits wear off on other people, unfortunately. So that's a case of what happened to me. And it's like, okay, so I lived there and I kind of went backward a little bit. Like I fell back into like my old routines with food. I was unhappy with my body image. I gained weight, and I was in this cycle of like trying to work it off and trying to eat less, and like it was just like a mess. And then I moved out, and what do you think happened? I had to retrain myself again to eat a certain way, to do my own grocery shopping. Now I'm in another environment that's more controlled, where I'm in control of it. So I did change what I was eating. I learned that I had to do lower impact workouts to regulate my insulin, and it was just better for me overall, for my mental health too. And then I ended up losing weight, and I ended up having like a more positive body image, and I was just happier overall. But that's a perfect example of when old triggers and old patterns show up. And I feel like health and fitness is a perfect example, because like everybody knows health and fitness is such a journey, you know what I mean? And that has even happened to me this year, not to the extent that it happened before, but I am now going through a phase, and I've made videos on my page about my experience with binge eating. But I've kind of just been all over the place with my health and fitness journey. But I gained like a few pounds, not too much, but more than that, I fell back into habits of not eating well and eating more processed foods and eating more sugar. And it truly is like not only physically addictive once you start eating those foods, but it is emotionally addictive as well. And like it's a whole thing. So I'm right now, as we speak, currently doing the inner work that I need to do to overcome those habits again. And it's just like such a beautiful like full circle thing, because I know that I can overcome it because I have already. But again, like just because you've worked through something and you've overcome the triggers doesn't mean that like you might not be tempted to go back to your old ways once again. One, but two, it doesn't mean that you can't. If you did it once, you can do it again. You know what I mean? So like yeah, that's a perfect example right there.